there's like a type of diet that's junk food vegans where they eat just like pasta and like soy protein isolate. It's just different.
It's not the same diet, and it's not my niche of what I do or recommend. I'm trying to maximally extend lifespan. It's not the diet for everybody, because a lot of people just want to enjoy their life more, so they think.
Like someone my age, around 30 years old, you're not always thinking about your future health. We are starting to think like, hey, I want to be this way forever. Like I don't want my quality of life to decline. I know everyone, I feel like, reaches out to you when they have questions about supplements or like
and they get problems.
Their DHA is low.
There were not a lot of other doctors they could go to who were plant-based, plant-based sympathetic.
Right.
And when they came to me and I measured their blood and their problems and see the problems they developed, they had a lot of people developing dementia. And the leaders of the plant-based movement, most of them developed either dementia or Parkinson's disease. And because nobody was taking supplements.
And you look at all of their like vitamins and minerals and everything they're getting, and you notice they're low in these areas, and you're like, well, that could be the problem.
Well, I took the blood test for the omega-3 index back then. It was available we're talking about 20 years ago now.
Oh.
And it was available, and some of them had extremely low levels, super low levels. And we've studied in primate studies and that the low level of omega-3 in the brain increases the susceptibility to toxins that can induce Parkinson's. And by the way, there are some toxins in fish that can cause a Parkinson dementia syndrome. Well, I took the blood test for the omega-3 index back then. It was available we're talking about 20 years ago now.
Oh.
And it was available, and some of them had extremely low levels, super low levels. And we've studied in primate studies and that the low level of omega-3 in the brain increases the susceptibility to toxins that can induce Parkinson's. And by the way, there are some toxins in fish that can cause a Parkinson dementia syndrome, by the way, that can cause Parkinson's, because Parkinson's is primarily caused by toxins in the brain. But fish supplies some of the omega-3 that makes you more resilient to the toxins. So it's very confusing.
It's very confusing. It's like there's a pro and a con, but let's dive in, because I think, no pun intended, I think that fish have a lot of bad to it too. Like the topic on microplastics blow my mind, but what's the bad? Because you said people can eat fish to get DHA or supplement with omega-3 because there's good parts of fish, but there's a lot of bad. So what would you say is the number one problem with eating fish? Where can a problem arise?
The number one problem are toxins, which is not just mercury. It's mercury, it's dioxin, it's PCPs, and
are these carcinogens? Are these cause cancer, the worst?
And it's microplastic compounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the combination of, we have tons of dumping of plastics into the ocean.
So sad.
The microplastics are tiny pieces of plastics. Most of them are smaller than the width of the hair on your head. They're tiny.
Wow. And wait, this comes from our plastic? It's all environmental? And
yes,
it's
we dump plastic into the ocean. It degrades into small particles. The fish
eat it.
They also breathe it. Because they oxygenate their body by breaking the oxygen in water, and the plastic particles enter the bloodstream.
Just from being in the ocean, because they break apart, decompose, and then the fish are getting them inside their bodies.
The fish get them in the bodies, right? And they're in fish now.
And then food chains, where you eat the fish, we're
and the
getting
bigger
them in
fish.
our bodies.
So fish expose us to mercury, dioxin, and we find dioxin PCBs in polar bears and in seals in the Arctic. And even in primitive. You could say Polynesian islands, the wild fish caused off the islands still have these toxins in them because they permeate the whole natural landscape around the world.
It's so devastating.
So health authorities say, well, if you're pregnant, don't eat too much fish, not more than 2 servings a week.
This stuff gets me too. You always hear that. Yeah. Not good for children under the age of 5, not good for pregnant wives, but everyone else on the table. And you're like, something is weird about this, that it could actually cause birth defects, but I'm fine to eat it.
That's right. It's more dangerous for those people who are more susceptible to it, but those people are the measurement devices. Those are the radioactive devices where you take this radioactive Geiger counter into the room to see if there's something going on here that we should get away from. So that if it's dangerous for the pregnant women and the children,
I don't want it then.
Then it's showing us, well, we shouldn't be exposed to this at any age,
Exactly. Then maybe don't.
Because we don't see it right away. It takes years and years to accumulate. But we know a person's mercury level and the level of plastic compounds in their body is proportional to the amount of fish they eat and how much fish they've eaten over their lifetime.
Sounds like a lot of crud in fish, actually.
There is a lot of crud in fish.
I mean, that's how I always thought about it, was there's some great stuff and then there's some really bad stuff. So it's like, do you want to eat that?
And the bigger, more predatory fish have more mercury. But now, because I used to think years ago, well, I'm just going to have like a little salmon or a little sardines or little oysters, a little smaller fish.
On special occasions.
Special occasions. They're not going to be the predatory fish like tuna, swordfish, and shark that have a high level of mercury. My body can clean that out. It's only a little...
Won't be so bad.
Won't be so bad. But I got a rude awakening by studying the science in more detail. The rude awakening was what I thought, where the sardine has the omega-3 and is not going to have as much mercury, it has more plastic.
The smaller stuff?
It's because it lives closer to the shore on the bottom, the sardines and the oysters, and there's more plastic because they're dumping plastic near the shoreline, and you have more runoff of the nitrogen-based fertilizer, and you have algae bloom, and the cyanobacteria live on the algae bloom, and they produce a
cyanide bacteria? There's cyanide that are...
No, it's not cyanide, it's cyanobacteria.
Oh. Thanks for clearing that up. I'm like, does it get any worse?
Right.
Oh.
So these bacteria that live on the algae bloom, there's more, because we're dumping nitrogen from fish farming and from farming, we're dumping more nitrogen into the waters and off the coastal waters, and now we have more of this toxin that feeds off the cyanobacteria, feeding off the algae, and it's called BMAA. Is a toxin. We're talking about plastic, mercury, PCBs, dioxin. We're talking about more BMAA now, and BMAA has been linked to ALS. ALS used to be called Lou Gehrig's disease. Amyloidolateral sclerosis is very dangerous. It leads to people losing their coordination and killing. Eventually, they can't speak and they even can't breathe.
But their mental faculties are all there, right?
Yeah,
so it's pretty scary.
It's a pretty scary, dangerous disease. And we're seeing clustering of ALS cases around lakes where people are eating lake fish from the algae bloom. And we're seeing around Chesapeake Bay and areas of the...
Wait, you said it kind of fast. So algae bloom. So essentially you have farms that are getting tons of pesticides and like stuff coming off them from the rain and going into lakes.
The fertilizer.
Oh, fertilizer.
And nitrogen runoff from farms, from both conventional farming...
And organic?
Yes, and from animal products, but also from raising fish farms. The fish farms create an algae bloom.
So algae blooms are created from these pesticides, from these fertilizers?
No, not the pesticides, not the chemicals. From the fertilizing nutrients, from the high nitrogen they put in the soil to grow the vegetables.
Oh.
From the fertilizers.
Okay.
So the fertilizers run off into the waterways. Mm-hmm. And the fertilizers that run off into the waterways and the animal refuse that runs into the waterways, like animal feces, from fish feces and animal feces, they create this algae bloom. And there's more algae bloom on coastal areas where they're raising fish. And it causes more BMAA in the water, which is then linked to ALS and Parkinson's syndrome and Parkinson's dementia syndrome.
So just even natural fertilizer, like just from the animal gook and all that, is running off and causing the ocean to just get really contaminated, essentially.
Yes, the ocean's contaminated in the coastal waterways.
And then you said the coastal waterways and lakes where they're pulling, and like marshes where they get like oysters and shellfish, you said are the worst over fish.
Well, they're called bivalves. I just learned what the word bivalves was a while back. The bivalves refers to oysters, mussels, clams, and scallops. And those bivalves plus shellfish are bottom feeders like lobster and crab.
Yeah.
And the bottom feeders get much higher levels of BMAA in them, which there may not have been BMAA in them in ancient times, but in modern times there are high levels. And these are linked to a seriously life-threatening disease like ALS and Parkinson's dementia syndrome. And there's so high amounts of BMAA in these foods now off the coastal waterways that there's high clusters of these serious diseases that are increasing in prevalence when people are eating more seafood. And now I'm afraid to eat even crabs and lobster and scallops, because if I was going to, let's say, cheat on my diet on a holiday or a vacation or something years ago, I would say,
cheat?
I would say, I'd rather have like crab and lobster or scallops or shellfish. That's what I'd rather have than a piece of fish.
For a special occasion. You wanted it to be grand.
Yeah, you get like a buffet, you have something, okay, I'll have some, but now I won't touch that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, who wants to increase their...
Because I learned about it, I'm saying, wow, even that what I used to think were the better, safer seaweed foods are actually turning out to be the worst seafoods.
Right.
You know, by the way, shark cartilage in shark fin has the most BMAA in it. And doctors used to recommend people take shark cartilage pills for cancer protection, and they were really giving them a product that actually causes cancer.
That's so sad.
Isn't that weird?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why? What was the benefit of they thought of shark back then?
Because there was a lot of marketing on sharks not getting cancer. And that you take shark cartilage, you're not going to get cancer because a shark doesn't get cancer.
They have some magic,
some
biology
magic substance in there.
Yeah.
And all these cancer patients were like shoving shark cartilage pills in their mouth.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it wasn't properly researched?
It was never properly. Look at today. People are on the internet. People are taking apricot pits, and type of some people call it Laetrile. They call it like B17, and they're giving it to people with cancer, and people who don't have cancer think it's a health food, all because it's marketed by these people on the internet that are hurting people and damaging them. And when the studies come out, they deny them. But as more evidence accumulates, like with shark cartilage and with apricot pits and Laetrile, we find that these things are dangerous and foolish, and you have to be skeptic, and you have to really have a different way of looking at things, and it really takes a lot of education to be able to
Eat properly.
look at research and classify the research to A research, B research, or C research, and to be able to interpret the full evidence to know which way to go. You know, and to be able to, you could say, debunk the fake research and debunk the wrong research and debunk the false claims that people are making. Because some people, they don't know enough. They don't really know enough. They just believe whatever they hear. They like this person giving them the information. They're going to believe whatever they're hearing. You know.
Well, we were talking about this before, but it's when you go on social media, it's who's ever the loudest or posts the most seems to be right, and you're like, is that really true?
And these people who like support this person, you know,
Well, totally, and a lot of people, I think, hear all this evidence and just want to be validated to like eat what they want to eat.
Yeah.
And it's just really tough. But I know people are going to clap back and say, oh, you can't eat mussels, oysters, all this stuff. Then you can't eat anything. What can you eat? There's something, you always hear there's something wrong with everything. So I'm just going to take my chances. But you still say the Nutritarian diet. Like, are there any foods in that Nutritarian diet that are dangerous? Or, I mean, you could have like oyster mushrooms and cut them up in the right way so that they like resemble scallops. Like, there are really yummy, delicious foods that you could eat instead of seafoods.
Well, I think I've moved more over my years to being actually stricter with plant-based eating over the years because of these concerns. And over the years, we've made plant-based eating taste so good that you don't miss the animal products.
Right.
And I don't miss not having sugar and oil either. Because
Right.
our cooking techniques have been so
Refined
that things taste good. We made ice cream. We didn't talk about the birthday party we had yesterday. We make such delicious stuff that I don't feel I'm missing those things anymore.
Yeah.
So now that I can't have lobster and crab, and not that I can't have it, I could have it whenever I want to have it.
Right.
But I don't think I'm going to want to have it because I learned so much about it. I don't want to take the chance anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's run.
And I have a lot of other things I love to eat too. You know.
Yeah. So there isn't anything like within the G-bombs or the Nutritarian diet that you need to pull out. It seems like a solid way of eating for people that are questioning what's even safe.
Yeah. Well, we don't eat a lot of brown rice because of the arsenic contamination. You can eat a little brown rice, but you know. And we eat such a wide variety of food in the diet, which helps us not only detoxify and have these toxins leave our tissues over time, but it exposes you to a less of one type of toxin.
Right.
So you're getting the toxins you are exposed to are wide enough in variety to make it less damaging to the body's tissues.
So it would be
and we're trying to eat organic, right? We're trying to eat as much as we can organic from good soils too, which is all, we're doing the best we can, right?
So it would be like the worst thing to do is have like meat and potatoes and broccoli night after night after night, like they used to do. Like the same thing is bad.
Yeah, but a lot of people aren't even eating potatoes and broccoli. They're eating fast food, burgers, and pizza, and they don't have the broccoli, and they don't have the potato. They have the French fries.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the people living on fast food. It's like they've completely separated themselves from the ability to think logically because everything they're eating is disease causing.
Yeah, and addicting.
Yeah, and addicting.
And cheap. It's like the recipe for future disaster.
Yeah.
Like havoc in their bodies. Oh, my heart. But let's run through what we made for Mom's birthday dinner yesterday because I was really proud of it. I felt like we didn't want to eat out. We just wanted a good home-cooked meal, but like a little extra. We got a little fancy with it.
We got a little over the top. But it was pretty
perfectly good. Over the top. Do you have any regrets?
No, it was a good treat.
Yeah. Okay.
So what it was is, You were assigned the main dish, so
Yes.
you made
My famous.
a lasagna.
Yes. So I make the zucchini lasagna, but I usually do, it's so good. The recipe's on drfurman.com for anyone that wants it. And it's by me, of course. But so it's the layer red sauce, and then you layer the zucchini, and then you have a cashew tofu ricotta, which is so good. Really good.
Yeah, it really tastes
You layer
great.
that, put more sauce on. But to get a little special for Mom's birthday, I did every other layer, zucchini, and then whole wheat pasta
Whole
sheets.
wheat pasta sheets.
To make it a little more decadent. And what'd you think?
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was
and then
really
I made steamed artichokes, because artichokes are my favorite vegetable.
They were also really good.
I love those.
Yeah.
And then Carol made the apple pie. She made a healthy apple pie with just
Two of them.
Yeah. And I was in charge of the dessert, was the ice cream.
Yes.
But no, my idea was to have an ice cream making contest.
Right.
And have who could make the best tasting ice cream. But everybody was so busy, I had a contest with myself and made 2 flavors of ice cream. I made a chocolate mint with cocoa nibs.
Right.
And then I made a vanilla ice cream, a vanilla bean ice cream.
With cocoa nibs.
And I also put cocoa nibs in that too. But I put real mint, beautiful fresh mint leaves with little cocoa powder, a little bit of date coconut roll, 5 bananas in the chocolate one.
Yeah.
A teaspoon of the real vanilla bean powder and 3 teaspoons of cocoa powder. And I made the chocolate ice cream.
Right.
And it was really good. People loved it.
Delicious.
And the vanilla ice cream, of course, not as much date, no cocoa and vanilla, and I put a little bit of I enhanced the decadent value because I picked a little soy milk in there, and I put a little coconut cream in there too. So I had a little soy milk and coconut cream, and then I didn't just put it in the Vitamix to blend it. I also took it out of the Vitamix after it was blended, and I put it into an ice cream maker, which then turns it and fluffs it. So it came out like in such incredibly like real ice cream.
Yeah, it was a great
And then
texture.
I put that in the freezer while you were getting the other
And
things.
doesn't
with
the ice
cooking.
cream maker chill it too? Because it was very cold.
I had it, I took the frozen bananas when I blended it. So it went to the ice cream maker, you could put things in the ice cream maker at room temperature and just but I had it already chilled.
Right.
So so the ice cream maker now makes it in 15 minutes instead of making it in 40 minutes.
Right.
You know what I
Okay,
mean?
okay.
So I use but the ice cream maker mixes it around and chills it down. So it gets a little more air in it. So it has the texture of a little more like a real holiday ice cream.
I think
and
what
they put that on the apple pie after lasagna, and it was really good dinner. Huh?
Yeah, it was so yummy.
We didn't want to eat much for dinner because we wanted to have the dessert too.
Oh yeah, you have to save room because
So
it
we-
will really fill you up.
Because we had a dessert. We each had a little ice cream with the apple pie, so we didn't eat that much food.
Yeah, I think what I loved about it was that I truly enjoyed it. Like, I mean, I enjoy all my meals, but if you're looking for like something birthday a little bit extra, everyone
Yeah.
came together and made something that was our favorite, like staple, but we put a nutritarian spin on it, and it
Yeah.
still was just incredible without guilt. Like, I didn't feel guilty
Yeah.
at all over anything. I just was really satisfied and
Yeah.
didn't feel like I went.
Too far.
Yeah,
And it
was
could.
so
Well, how can you have a
good.
meal that tastes better than that?
Yeah,
that was
it
a real
can't.
special occasion meal.
I want it again tonight.
Yeah. And how do you
is
like that
cool.
birthday present I got, Mom?
That was unexpected, but it's great. She's excited. He got my mom a potter's wheel, so my mom might be making beautiful plates and
Yeah, so you could
stuff
spin
in
and
the
make your own
future.
pottery. It's
But you're
kinda
gonna
like-
do it with her, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
All
to
right.
make,
I'm gonna ask you how you did. And
'Cause
if you,
I think in my house eventually I'm going to put a little area that we're going to like do art, like
Yeah.
make pottery or paint pictures or paint or draw paintings just for fun. Just like fun.
art, I think, needs to be a part of everyone's life, no
like
matter
playing,
what shape or
playing around
form.
with art like a kid.
Okay, so before I let you go, let's do our member questions. So the members have a chance to ask me online some questions that we feature on the podcast, and here are the ones that I picked for this month.
Okay.
This one's very on brand for our topic today. Dr. Furman mentioned that the average American has a credit card amount of plastic in their body. How do we get rid of that? You mentioned that it causes hormonal, carcinogenic, and other problems. Is that true?
That's right. The plastics transmit toxins into the body. There are chemicals in the plastic besides the plastic. And those chemicals into the bloodstream could be genotoxic, could damage the DNA, and could persist in the body for decades.
Are people just getting this credit card from fish and stuff? or-
No, they're getting it. No, they're not. They're getting it from eating fast food and eating things packed in plastic and drinking plastic water.
Oh my- yeah,
They're
right.
eating it from from eating packaged foods, processed foods, plus eating from fish. So yeah, it's dangerous and it doesn't come out of the body readily. It takes decades to come out of the body. It means it's going to cause damage for a long time. So that's why nothing is magical. It takes a long time to earn good health. So now that we're doing the right things earlier in life, that's why you can't suddenly take a DHA deficient brain and get all the right fatty acids in your brain overnight or even in a year or two. It takes time for the body to restructure its biology. to
Sure.
fix things. So you got to do things right for many years, not for a few months. So yeah, to get your levels of toxins down in your body, you have to eat healthy for decades or for a decade. So
Right.
it's going to come out slowly as you stop exposing yourself to these things, but it comes out very slowly. And for most people, they don't get to a healthy enough place to get all these things out of the body. So for us nutritarians, we're striving for a higher degree of nutritional excellence. So our body does have the phytochemical and nutrient exposure with such a wide, diverse array of nutrients and foods that our nutrient density in our cells are high enough so the body can deal with the toxins,
Flush them out.
flush them out, but it's not so quick as a flush. It's slowly
Seep.
seeping out over the years.
I don't like that
and we're
word.
going to improve our health from whatever diet we were following the first 50 years of our life. The sooner in life you start to eat healthy, like you, starting younger, and the more aggressive and healthier you eat, the better the toxins are going to come out.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. And you recommend people do not drink from plastic water bottles, right?
Correct. No plastic water bottles either.
Glass is safe.
Glass and stainless steel is okay and stuff
Okay.
like that. you know.
Okay. Interesting. Next question. What about juicing with produce that isn't organic, or what if you don't know the farmer's fertilizing practices?
Well, you don't have to juice. The reason why I juice for people is because they're starting on a nutritarian diet with some serious chronic illness.
Yeah.
And I want to bring the levels of nutrients in their tissues up faster. But I only recommend you really juice if you can get organic produce, getting produce from an organic farm.
Okay.
Because I'd rather you not juice and concentrate so much of that food if it's not organic. The stuff, and that's why we like to grow some of our own food. I know the soil. I know the fertilizers we put in there. I know it's really great food. I can juice that because I have a lot of extra of it anyway. And the best vegetable to juice is bok choy because it's the cruciferous vegetable with the most liquid in it that juices easily. Well, you juice in kale and other
and like
greens and
cucumbers
cabbage.
have a lot.
Yeah, but cucumbers aren't as anti-cancer powerfully as bok choy is.
Right,
So mix the cucumber and the lettuce with a little bok choy, because then you'll get a good juice. But I would only do it if you can make organic. And we don't, we juice about 3 times a week. Maybe I don't do it every day, but for people who are seriously ill with cancer or autoimmune conditions, I usually juice for them twice a day because I'm trying to get the levels of nutrients in their tissues more rapidly up so they can maximize their healing quicker. Yeah.
Right. But so juicing does make sense. If you could get organic, it will help you rev up that nutrient profile.
Yes, but you don't have to juice if you're eating perfectly. If over time you can eventually get to the high level of nutrients in your tissues without the juicing, but taking a little extra juice is still a good thing to do if you're getting organic produce. And I also recommend people supplement their diet with sprouts too. And we want to use organic, sprouts that are made with goods, and not just sprouts, but also microgreens. But microgreens, we were careful as to the type of soil we're raising the microgreens in. We're not just using any kind of junk food soil. And I don't want to use soil that's fertilized with chicken manure because chicken manure has more arsenic in it.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm using fertilizers from my garden that is not the commercial fertilizers that are predominantly made with chicken feathers and chicken manure.
Where do you get your fertilizer? Oh, wait. See our gardening episode.
I make my own fertilizer.
I'm not going to get you on that.
But you can
tangent.
buy fertilizer made with bat guano and fish meal, but it's still better than what we do, make our own fertilizer.
So you don't want to juice with conventional non-organic produce because you use so much of the produce. You could be getting a lot of pesticides
Exactly.
in your juices.
Right.
Versus you using organic, tons of vegetables. It's fine to get that quantity of vegetables in your body.
You got it.
Okay. That makes sense. My question is, so I know now juicing has to be organic. What about the microgreens? Does that have to be organic?
Well, nobody's spraying microgreens
Oh, really?
with fungus. I mean, yeah, it's organic, but I think all microgreens are organic. But I'm saying that I even like to make my own microgreens because I want to know the soil I'm raising the microgreens in. You only use a half an inch of soil. And you're going to cut it off, right? But what is that soil? Get some peat moss and mix in some...
How is growing your microgreens? Is it easy?
Yeah, it's very easy. And I'm saying here that even a little bit of sprouts and a little bit of microgreens or a little bit of exotic mushrooms, adds a quality of longevity benefits to your diet that's worth the effort, even if you're not eating a huge amount of it. Just the little bit of addition adds an additional quality to your nutrient intake and to these compounds, these beneficial phytochemicals that are good for you.
You know how in your multivitamins and supplements you add different unique, like 10 different mushrooms, different unique berries and stuff like that.
Right.
Is that going to provide people with those like extra superfoods for health and longevity?
Yes, because we're learning that the best microbiome and the best nutrients for ultimately pushing the envelope of human longevity has to do with micronutrient diversity. And that means not just have one type of mushroom, the same mushroom all the time, but have a lot of different types of mushrooms in your diet. And I can't get like 10 mushrooms in my diet. If I was living in the woods or the jungles and I was harvesting a lot of mushrooms all the time, I'd probably get a lot of different wild mushrooms.
Sounds like a full-time job, though.
So it's because most of this full-time job is lurking for food and making food all day long. That's what primitive humans did.
Yeah, 100 different containers in your fridge, I can imagine.
Right. So having a variety of berries and a variety of foods in your diet, we can increase that nutritional variety with taking a supplement with different mushroom extracts, can be helpful for people, yes.
Cool. Because I noticed you have a bunch of different superfoods, and I'm like, this is good to take. Next question. Could Dr. Furman please address why coconut flakes and coconut milk are okay in some recipes, like your ice cream, you blew up your spot there, when we know coconut oil is most definitely not okay?
That's correct. Because coconut flakes and even coconut cream is ground up coconut. And coconut flakes,
the full coconut,
the full coconut ground up.
Right.
Whereas coconut oil is the oil extracted from the coconut without the fiber. And the hallmark of a nutritarian diet is we get our fat from whole foods, not from the oils extracted from those foods. But
that's just the fat extracted. That is just the saturated part.
Just the fat extracted without the fiber, so it rushes into your bloodstream faster, has more caloric density, stimulates the brain for a food addiction. But coconut fat in particular, it has more saturated fat. So it's more raises cholesterol more, and promotes heart disease more than other fats do. So coconut oil is not olive oil. Coconut oil is olive oil. If you're going to use an oil, olive oil is much safer than coconut oil. So I definitely do not recommend people use coconut oil.
Oh, really? Olive oil safer. That was my next question, actually. That fits so perfect in here. I had a bunch of friends text me this question. The internet right now has seed oils have a really bad rep. They're saying like canola oil, it's the worst. And this like extra marketing against seed oils. Right. Is there any validity to that? Are there some oils that are better than others?
Yes, it's definitely the case that olive oil, for example, has more phenols and is less saturated fat. That we have
What's a phenol?
It's a phytochemical present, and it's fat soluble phytochemical. It's good for the brain.
Okay.
And for your immune system.
Right.
So there's some benefits, and there's also polyphenols and bioflavonoids in coffee, for example. But there's some negative aspects of coffee too that people aren't talking about. You
Just
can get
like
polyphenols, there's always some benefit to it. But there's some benefit. But there's better ways you can get those benefits without the risks. You know, that is sources that are not that fattening. So yes, I'm agreeing with that if you're going to use an oil, but I'm still not recommending olive oil, even though it's better than the other kind of oil.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, because it's super highly caloric. So
all oils are highly caloric.
Right.
But those seed oils might have more saturated fat compared to olive oil.
Right.
And even though olive oil has a 14% saturated fat, it has a good amount of polyphenols in it that have some nutrient benefits.
Yeah.
It's still not as good as eating the whole olive. It's still not as good as eating another seed. So what are you comparing it to? The studies show that olive oil, yes, better than butter. Olive oil better than most of the seed oils, yes. But olive oil is not better than eating walnuts and the whole nuts and seeds.
So when you could blend the full nuts and seeds into these dishes and they taste so good.
It's when you're comparing something, that's why fish looks better than meat, but it's still not as good as eating beans and nuts. It's all about, you got to look at the study and see what we're going to, so people could use the study and make it could not show accurately if something is good or bad, because whatever you're comparing it to. Mm-hmm. It's better for us to eat. But anyway, I think they got the idea.
I hope you got some clarity on fish and knowing the pitfalls, what to avoid, and any pitfalls that we can help you with. We want you to live a long and healthy life. Right.
And the unfortunate message here is even the limited consumption of fish, even once or twice a week, is not worth the risk. That's the final message, I think.
Yeah.
And even that people say, well, it's okay if having it once or twice a week. I'm thinking even that's probably too much. Probably shouldn't do more than once or twice a month. And even if you're doing it once or twice a month, that should not be shellfish and bivalves, because they're too toxic now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. We will be breaking more food myths in the future, and we can't wait for you to join us.